The phone rang at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. My mother's voice was syrupy sweet, the tone she always used when she wanted something. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. Heidi, honey, Brandon's in a bit of trouble with his loan. $700,000. We know you'll do the right thing and help him out. It's your duty as his sister. I froze. $700,000? For a brother who hadn't spoken to me in 3 years? I smiled into the phone. They had no idea what was coming. Mom kept talking, her words flowing like practiced manipulation. Now, sweetheart, I know it sounds like a lot, but Brandon made an unfortunate investment. The business didn't work out. These things happen in entrepreneurship, you understand? I pressed the phone tighter. Mom, wait, back up. What exactly are you asking me to do? Well, help him pay back the loan, of course. You have that wonderful job at the financial firm. You're doing so well. We're so proud of you. And family helps family. Before I could respond, I heard my father's voice in the background. Then he was on the line, his tone much less sweet. Heidi, this is serious. Your brother needs help. We expect you to step up. I took a slow breath, counting to 5, the way my therapist taught me years ago. Dad, I need to understand something. Brandon took out a $700,000 loan. For what? A tech startup? Yes, my father said, clipped and defensive. Very promising. The market just wasn't ready yet. And this loan, I continued. It's in his name? Well, yes, and ours. We co-signed to help him out. Of course they did. They'd been funding Brandon's failures since he was 20. He was 35 now, still living in their guest house, still chasing the next big idea. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. Brandon borrowed $700,000, you co-signed. The business failed, and now you want me to pay it back? We want you to help, my mother cut in. As a family, we're all in this together. I almost laughed. All in this together? Growing up, it was never together. Brandon got everything. The college fund, the new car, the startup money. I worked 3 jobs just to pay for state college. Why can't Brandon pay his own loan? I asked, or you too? You co-signed? Heidi, don't be difficult, my father said impatiently. Brandon's business failed. He has no income. We're retired. We can't handle this kind of debt. But I can, I said flatly. You're a financial analyst. You make good money. You have savings, my mother replied, as if my success was a family resource to be mined. What struck me most was how much they knew about my finances. Details I'd never shared. Let me think about it, I said, which was my polite way of saying absolutely not. There's nothing to think about, my father snapped. This is non-negotiable. You have a responsibility to your family. I almost laughed again. Responsibility? Like the one Brandon had when he didn't show up to Grandma Ruth's funeral, or the one my parents had when they didn't even call me on Christmas last year. My mother's tone turned sharp. We don't have time for your self-pity, Heidi. Brandon needs real help. Not your childish resentment. I took a deep breath. I'm not paying a cent, I said quietly but firmly. Brandon made his choices. You made yours when you co-signed. That's not my problem. You'll regret this decision, Heidi, my mother hissed, and the line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone. $700,000, a ridiculous amount of money, even for me. But something about that call didn't feel right. The urgency, the entitlement, and how much they somehow knew about my finances. I opened my laptop, logged into my credit report, and my heart stopped. There it was. 2 hard inquiries from Summit National Bank. The same bank my brother had borrowed from, dated 6 months ago. But I'd never applied for anything with them. Someone had run my credit. Someone had used my information, and suddenly, the entire conversation made horrifying sense. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those words flashing on my laptop screen. Summit National Bank. 2 hard inquiries. Someone had used my name, my credit, my identity. At 7 a.m., I called my boss and told him I was taking a personal day. Gerald, ever the understanding type, said, "Take care of yourself. Heidi, we need you sharp when you get back." If only he knew what kind of storm I was walking into. By 9 a.m., I was sitting in the glass lobby of Summit National Bank, my heart pounding like a drum. Everything about the place screamed trust us. Sleek furniture, polite smiles, modern decor. but right now I trusted no one. The receptionist looked up as I approached. "Good morning, how can I help you?" I held out my ID and my printed credit report. "I need to speak to someone about a loan. A loan that I think might have my name on it without my consent." Her eyes widened slightly. "1 moment, please." 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from a woman in her 50s. Patricia Drummond, a loan officer with kind eyes and a serious face. She shook my hand firmly. "Miss Palmer, I understand you have concerns about a loan?" "Yes," I said, keeping my voice steady. "My brother Brandon Palmer took out a $700,000 business loan here. I believe my name was used as a cosigner. Without my knowledge." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "Let me pull that up for you." She typed for a moment, eyes flicking between screens. Then her expression shifted. Subtle, but I caught it. "Yes," she said carefully. "We do have a file. Brandon Palmer. Business loan for $700,000 opened 8 months ago." My chest tightened. "Am I listed on it?" She looked at me, her tone soft but deliberate. "Miss Palmer, you are listed as a co-signer on this loan." The world tilted. I gripped the edge of the desk, fighting to stay calm. "That's impossible," I said. "I never signed anything. I never even knew about this loan until last night." Patricia's expression hardened. "That's a very serious claim, Miss Palmer." "I know," I said. "But it's true. Someone forged my signature." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "If that's the case, you'll want to see the documents yourself." She turned to her printer and retrieved a stack of papers. The loan agreement, the cosigner page, all stamped and dated. And there, in black ink, was my name, Heidi Palmer. The signature looked eerily similar to mine. Same loops, same slant, but it wasn't me. Whoever had done this knew my handwriting well. "I never signed this," I whispered. "This isn't mine." Patricia studied the signature, then looked back at me. "You're saying this was forged?" "Yes," I said firmly. "And I intend to prove it." She leaned back. "Miss Palmer, the loan is currently in default. Your brother hasn't made a payment in 2 months. As cosigner, you're legally liable for the full amount." "How much?" I asked, with penalties and missed payments. $732,000. I felt my stomach drop. $750,000. Attached to my name, for something I had nothing to do with. "Miss Drummond?" I said carefully. "I work in finance. I know how this goes. I need copies of every document tied to this loan, digital and physical." She hesitated. Then she nodded. "I believe you," she said quietly. "Let me pull the full file." For the next 20 minutes, we sat in silence while she printed everything. Application forms, verification emails, identity documents. And then she paused. "There's something else," she said softly. "A second document." My heart skipped. "What document?" She turned the paper toward me. "You're also listed as guarantor on a line of credit. $150,000. Same date, same business. Innovate Tech Solutions. $150,000. On top of $700,000, almost $1 million of debt. Tied to my name. Forged. I couldn't even breathe. This wasn't just fraud. This was betrayal. By the people who were supposed to love me most. I walked out of the bank clutching that stack of papers like a life raft. The sun was shining, but everything around me felt dim, muted, as if the world had tilted off its axis. My parents hadn't just asked me to pay for Brandon's mistake. They had made me legally responsible for it, by forging my signature. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. Every sweet word, every "we're family" speech from my mother the night before suddenly made sense. They didn't call because they cared. They called because their little scheme was falling apart. Back home, I spread the documents across my dining table. My name, my forged signature. Brandon's business plan full of buzzwords like disruptive innovation and scaling potential. It was all fake. Just like his success, I dialed the police. "Identity Theft Division," a calm voice said. "My name is Heidi Palmer," I began. "I need to report a case of forgery and financial fraud." 2 officers came by later that afternoon. They were professional, polite, but I could tell by their raised brows they'd seen this story before. The family member who thought they could get away with borrowing a signature. "Miss Palmer," the older officer said, flipping through the pages. This is serious. You'll need to file an affidavit for identity theft and provide handwriting samples. No problem, I said. I can prove this isn't mine. As they took the papers, I saw one small detail I had missed earlier. An email address listed for the co-signer's verification. It wasn't mine. It was heidi.palmer01@gmail.com. My real address had no numbers in it. Someone had made a fake account, pretending to be me. I felt cold all over. Whoever did this had access to my basic information, my address, my driver's license number, maybe even my old digital signature. The only people who could have known that were my parents. The next morning, I got a call from Detective Alvarez, the officer assigned to my case. "Heidi, I need you to confirm something," he said. "Did you ever send your brother or your parents scans of your ID?" "Yes," I said slowly. "A few years ago, when my mom wanted to add me as an emergency contact for her health insurance." He paused. "That's what they used." I sank into my chair, covering my mouth. It was one thing to be betrayed by your brother, but your own mother? By Thursday, the police had traced the loan application's digital trail. The IP address that submitted the forged documents came from my parents' home network. There it was. Proof. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, numb, feeling something deeper than anger. A hollow kind of heartbreak that comes only when love curdles into disbelief. That night, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. "Heidi," she said, her voice sharp now, all pretense gone. "We heard you went to the police. You're blowing this out of proportion. You'll ruin your brother's life." "My brother forged my name on nearly $1 million of debt," I said flatly. "I didn't ruin his life." "He did. You're selfish," she hissed. "We did this for the family." "No," I said quietly. "You did this to the family." And I hung up. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for walking away. Days passed in a blur of police calls, paperwork, and restless nights. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's face, calm, manipulative, pretending this was all normal. The fraud investigation was moving fast. Detective Alvarez called me Friday morning. "Heidi, we've confirmed it. The signatures were forged digitally using scanned documents. The forger uploaded your ID through an IP registered to your parents' address." It was official now. My parents and Brandon had crossed a legal line. I sat in silence, trying to process that the people who raised me had stolen my identity. Later that day, I got a notification from my bank app, account temporarily frozen due to potential fraud activity. My heart sank. Even though I'd done nothing wrong, I was suddenly locked out of my own accounts. My mortgage, my bills. Everything was tangled in the mess my family made. By that evening, I had to do something I never thought I'd do. Hire a lawyer to defend myself against my own family. My attorney, Rachel Kim, listened patiently as I explained everything. When I handed her the forged documents, she nodded slowly. "This isn't just forgery, Heidi. This is calculated identity theft and financial fraud. And given the evidence, we can pursue both criminal charges and restitution. I wanted justice, but I didn't want revenge. I just wanted my life back." 3 days later, Detective Alvarez called again. "Heidi, we've contacted your parents and your brother. They've been notified of the investigation. Brandon asked to speak to you before we proceed further. Do you want to meet him?" Every instinct told me to say no, but something inside me, maybe the part that still wanted answers, said yes. We met at a quiet cafe near downtown. When Brandon walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. He looked thinner, tired, desperate. "Heidi," he started, his voice small. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I stared at him. "You forged my name on a loan for nearly $1 million. How far did you think it was supposed to go?" He looked down. "Mom said you wouldn't mind, that you'd help if it was already done." I laughed bitterly. "So you knew she forged it?" He didn't answer. For a moment, I saw the brother I used to protect as a kid, the one who'd always gotten second chances. But that boy was gone. The man in front of me was a stranger. "You destroyed my credit, my peace, and our relationship," I said quietly. "And you didn't even apologize until you got caught." He whispered, "I'm sorry." But it was too late for sorry. That evening, I gave the police permission to move forward. My mother, father, and brother were all formally charged with fraud and identity theft. It broke me to sign that statement, but as my lawyer said, sometimes protecting yourself means accepting who people really are, not who you hoped they'd be. Weeks later, my accounts were restored, and the fraudulent loans were reversed after the bank reviewed the evidence. My credit would take time to recover, but I was free. Standing in my apartment one night, I stared out at the city lights and whispered to myself, family doesn't mean blood. It means trust, and for the first time in years, I finally felt at peace. 6 months later, my life looked completely different. The chaos had faded into something quieter. Not peace exactly, but the kind of calm that comes after a storm. The investigation ended with a plea deal. Brandon was sentenced to probation and community service for his role in the forgery. My parents, through their lawyers, agreed to pay restitution to the bank. I didn't attend the hearings. I couldn't. Watching them face the consequences of their choices was something I could only survive from a distance. There were days I questioned if I did the right thing, if I'd been too harsh, but then I'd open my mail and see another letter about identity restoration, another reminder of the mess they created, and I'd know I hadn't had a choice. The first time I walked back into my office after everything, my boss smiled and said, "Glad to have you back. Heidi, you look lighter. He was right. I'd lost so much, but I'd also gained something. Myself." I started therapy again, not just to process the betrayal, but to finally grieve the family I'd spent my whole life trying to earn love from. I realized I had spent years proving my worth to people who only saw me as a safety net, and when I stopped trying to fix them, I started healing me. One evening, while watching the sunset from my balcony, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Heidi, it's Mom. I know you'll never forgive me, but I hope one day you'll understand. I thought I was helping Brandon. I didn't realize what I was taking from you." I stared at the screen for a long time. There was no apology that could erase what they'd done. But for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt closure. I typed one message back. "I don't hate you, but I'm done saving you." Then I blocked the number and exhaled. It felt like breathing fresh air for the first time in years. I sold my condo and moved to a smaller sunlit place closer to my office, a space that was entirely mine. No shadows, no secrets, no ghosts from the past. And as I unpacked the last box, I found a photo of me and my dad from when I was a little girl, before everything fell apart. We were smiling over a birthday cake. I placed it on the shelf, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that I'd survived it. I whispered, "You did it, Heidi. You saved yourself." Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop waiting for your family to love you the right way and start loving yourself enough to walk away.